These two superheroes just can't get along. Is getting a patent for a game feature a good thing for the game industry? And if you can handle its bleak story, you're in for quite a ride with Greenland. All that and the latest in everything cool today in the Rundown. Hey, welcome to the show, everybody. Thank you for finding the Electric Playground. I want to give a special shout out to our sponsor, the Gaming Stadium. They are Canada's leader in online esports tournament facilitation. They've got tournaments going on every weekend, and you don't want to miss out on the action. You can find out all about them and join up at tgs.gg, and make sure you tell them that Vic from the Rundown sent you. All right. Today's episode is dedicated to Jordan Cunningham, who said that episode 5 of WandaVision blew him away. Me too, pal. But Marvel is just getting started with Disney+. Yes, there were some cool trailers to check out during the Super Bowl, but definitely what caught my eye was the trailer for Disney Plus's new show, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier. And this is following closely on the heels of the success of WandaVision, but it feels like a completely different show, which is one of the great things that's happening with the MCU, are all these different genres and different ways into these superhero stories that Kevin Feige and his team are finding. And The Falcon and the Winter Soldier feels a little bit more familiar. It feels like it follows sort of the path laid by Captain America, the Winter Soldier. We see a returning supervillain in Baron Zemo, who's played by Daniel Bruhl, who was last in Captain America Civil War. But of course, the focus is on Bucky and Sam and their relationship or lack thereof, and how they deal with the kind of new and emerging and re-emerging threats that we get tiny glimpses of in this trailer. There's a new character to the MCU, which I think is called Flag Smasher. She's got this handprint mask that she wears, and she's an ass kicker. There's some pretty cool quick-cut fight sequences that we see with the Flag Smasher character and a few others, especially on top of a truck. We see some pretty cool combat there. We see Sam and Bucky kind of going back and forth all the way throughout the trailer, right from when Sam jumps out of the plane and Bucky's like, what the hell do I do now? I thought that was hilarious. And then we get to see that Baron Zemo is actually going to be wearing more of the costume that we know from the comic books, which is kind of rad. And we also get another glimpse of this new U.S. agent, this mysterious U.S. agent who seems to be the more official choice to be a new Captain America type. So I think there's going to be some interesting dynamics there. You know, how Bucky and Sam deal with U.S. Agent, the reemergence of Baron Zemo, and this Flag Smasher character, which I don't know anything about, really. I've been sort of digging into this stuff a little bit on the internet. But it looks like there's going to be a lot of conflict for Sam and Bucky to kind of work through. Not just their own internal power struggle, which culminates in this ridiculous staring contest. And they sure do come off as two petulant little idiots, don't they?
Just blink, sweet Jesus. I mean, how old are you?
They're also incredibly funny. I was also super happy to see Sharon Carter pop back into this. She has an awesome little action beat there as well, where she's kicking all kinds of ass. This looks like it's going to be a lot of fun. It looks a little bit like a safer choice than WandaVision is, but I'm okay with that, man. I like these characters. I like this world. I like that there's an honoring of Chris Evans' incredible work as Captain America, and it looks like the shield has some real significant emotional weight, not just the heft and its usefulness as a prop to defeat bad guys with. I'm digging the vibe of this one very much. The series starts streaming in mid-March. I can't wait, and definitely when it does start, I'll come back every week and we'll talk about the episodes right here in the Rundown. Now, Marvel can't patent superhero movies, but it looks like Warner Brothers has just patented a game feature. The U.S. Patent and Trademark Office has granted Warner Brothers a patent for their awesome Nemesis System, which was first introduced in Middle-earth's Shadow of Mordor in 2014, and then it was reused and improved in the sequel to Shadow of Mordor called Shadow of War. This is an incredible system that has really made those two games stand out and made them significant, I think, in the world of open-world action adventures. The fact that you could go after specific orc characters and they would remember what you would do to them. They would carry a reputation system with them. If you defeated them, they kind of died in shame. They could actually run away from battle. If they defeated you, they became revered by the other orc warriors around them, and there was a ranking system. It was incredibly elaborate, and it really created emergent storytelling as you would roam the countryside, laying waste to orcs and orc camps everywhere. Both really cool games. So it's understandable that Warner Brothers would want a patent for this. I mean, this idea of really strengthening the non-player characters and making them feel much more alive and intelligent than we see in a lot of video games. They're not just fodder. The fact that there was memory allocated to to the experiences that you would have with these NPCs is just astounding. I get the idea of why Warner Brothers wants to keep this for themselves, and I also understand that this is the beginnings of true artificial intelligence in video games in some respects. This is technology that can be built upon in some really significant ways as games become more and more realistic. The problem with it, though, of course, is that so much of video game history is built upon the sharing of ideas. I think that it creates a potentially catastrophic precedent for the video game industry. I think that we may see a future in game making if this thing proves to be something that generates a lot of new money for Warner Brothers. We may see a future for games where there's just lawsuit after lawsuit if anybody's coming close to things that get patented. And so much of where we are with games right now is because of what game makers learn from playing their competitors' work out there. The Mordor games, when they were first coming up, there was a potential lawsuit that was happening between Ubisoft and Mordor because of the climbing skills that the character in Shadow of Mordor it looked a little bit like Assassin's Creed. So it's very fascinating that Warner Brothers is going down this lane. You could certainly look at something like Watch Dogs Legion as something that's just astounding with its technological mastery with regards to NPC management. You can think back to the 80s and 90s when a lot of the foundational language of platforming and action adventures were first being shaped. And can you imagine Nintendo going out there and saying, nope, we're patenting jumping onto platforms. You can't do that. This is our game. This is our technology. You can't do that. Maybe they tried it, Maybe Nintendo wouldn't put it past any of those companies back then. Everybody was trying to find their footing. Maybe this is going to lead to an arms race for people patenting ideas. And ultimately, what could happen is instead of taking a direction that is influenced by some very clever game design concepts and adding bits of nuance and improvement to something and then making it fresh and then using that element as another building block and going in a different direction and tendriling out, I think what we might have is a bunch of different silos and people kind of looking over at each other's camps, trying to wall off anybody using anything that's somewhat similar. And I know I'm oversimplifying this, and I know that Warner Brothers spent a fortune really building something special with Nemesis, and it's completely within their rights to pursue this patent. I know they've been doing it for a long time, and they finally just got it. Video games as an art form, as a means of expression, is still defining itself. And I think that there is a straight analogy to a lot of classic ideas, and I think that there's been a lot of baton passing of great concepts going from one studio to the other, sometimes with an acknowledgement and a tip of the hat that those influences came from these different studios, sometimes not. But this certainly makes it interesting. I mean, what do you guys think? Is this a good thing for the video game industry that now that there's a patent for the Nemesis system from Monolith, and clearly this is going to be something that is going to be important to Warner Brothers games moving forward? Maybe we're going to see something like that in Gotham Knights and Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League. Maybe there's more of this kind of embellishment happening in future Mordor games. I know this new patent isn't the end of the world, but a new movie on Amazon Prime Video explores exactly that. Over the weekend, I caught a new movie starring Gerard Butler that's called Greenland. And when you hear the title Greenland, you think, oh, we're going to go to that beautiful country. We're going to see some glaciers and some gorgeous sunsets and lots of rocky terrain. But this is a full-on disaster movie. This is an end-of-the-world disaster movie, and it's horrifying. The idea is that there's a comet that is supposed to be passing by Earth, but it's not. It's going to connect directly with Earth. It's splintering apart in lots of different little pieces, some big, some small, and the pieces start slamming into Earth all around the planet. And Gerard Butler plays a structural engineer based out of Atlanta and has a real skill there. He's been building high-rises and skyscrapers. And so what happens is the U.S. government says, we're going to try to save some very skilled individuals and escort them to safety to these bunkers that are headquartered in Greenland. And Gerard Butler and his family, his little kid, and his wife, played by Marina Baccarin, are included in that group of American citizens that's going to be whisked away to potential safety. But as the movie unfurls, you start to recognize that no one on Earth is safe. As these calamitous impacts start happening, you see cities getting destroyed and massive tidal waves and just enormous fireballs, and it's genuinely spooky. But what really makes this movie successful is that you feel the intimate fear of this family. The director Rick Romanois, who worked with Gerard Butler on Angel Has Fallen, does a smart thing, and he assembles a cast of like hundreds and hundreds of people, but we don't really know them. You see a couple of, somewhat familiar character actors that have appeared in things, but it's not like a star-driven vehicle. It's pretty much focused on Gerard Butler and Marina Baccarin and their relationship, which is kind of rocky, and Scott Glenn appears in the film as well. There's some really wonderful scenes there. Very much it's focused on this family, but we do see hundreds of other people, and there's lots of encounters. It really feels like a far-reaching road picture as this family kind of struggles to survive, and there's tension all the way because we understand that, people are freaking out and they're becoming fearful mobs racing towards what they think might be safety. There's some looting sequences and there's some horrible things that happen on the highway. We see planes and helicopters deal with the turmoil that's happening here. Every step of the way, it's incredibly nerve-wracking. It's totally a dystopian nightmare. It's the end of the world. And the visual effects are actually handled quite well. You really feel the horror of these impacts. You can hear it on the radio chatter, and there's some news footage, but none of it would work if we didn't feel that fear, that sense of tension for this family. We really want them to survive, especially as the calamities mount and the pressure mounts and the things that are ripping them apart just escalate, and you just want them to live. You just want them to survive. Of course, I'm a dad. I'm a father, and I've got a young girl, and so it's really hard for me to watch a child in peril. Everyone's in peril, but I think that juiced the emotional investment. My wife and I watched this together, and it was hard for both of us. I mean, there were real genuine tears. There were some real poignant moments. I really thought that Marina Baccarin, she's such a phenomenal actor. She's great in everything she's in. She's certainly improved Deadpool and all kinds of awesome things. Homeland. She's great. And she's terrific in this. She grounds it, but also Gerard Butler's really got a solid performance in this. Of course, he's the hero character, and of course he gets into action sequences, but he doesn't fight like he's not Mike Banning from the Fallen series of movies. He's just a regular dude that's trying to keep his family safe, which is great. I mean, this is a relatively grounded and, because of that, more horrifying disaster movie. And certainly it preys on the common fears that something from outer space might smack us and we're not going to be ready for it. And it's probably amped up because I'm watching this in the middle of a pandemic, but it was very effective. It's a great get for Amazon Prime Video. It's a very well-made movie. I'm going to give it an 8.5 out of 10. And finally, one last quick thing to talk about. A tiny, non-committal post on Halo Waypoint has got the internet buzzing that Halo Master Chief Collection is going to be playable on Nintendo Switch and/or PlayStation 5, and I don't think that's what the post was kind of pointing at. I think it's probably more likely we're going to see it as part of enhanced xCloud abilities, or maybe it's going to be on the Epic Game Store or something. I think the hint would be bigger. It's just this tiny one-sentence bullet point and maybe a new place and way to play, and it's sort of buried at the bottom of a longer post, and I think that would be a much bigger tease if this was something as epic as Halo hitting a Nintendo or Sony platform. I don't think that's out of the realm of possibilities, though. I have said this many times before. Microsoft is playing a long game with Game Pass. I see it in their future thinking, maybe we shouldn't be gatekeeping all of our content. We should give it to as many people as can play it. And I think that's why they've been spending so much money on studios. It's certainly interesting. What do you guys think? Are we going to be playing Halo Master Chief Collection on our PlayStation 5s or on Nintendo Switches? Maybe it will be something tied to a future edition of the Switch. That would be pretty rad. All right, you guys, that's going to do it for our rundown today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll be back tomorrow with a brand new episode for you. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Thank you to all of our new subscribers. Thank you to our longtime subscribers, and of course our EPN members. We'll see you tomorrow, and until then, play forever.